Alrighty, it is Monday, April 8th. We are with a session recap here, starting off with ES. Tighter range day as expected, right? Anytime we have those big volatility expansion moves, like I've mentioned 100 times before, you want to be expecting some contraction. That also tends to be the normal on a Monday. Typically a Monday with nothing on the economic calendar, you are going to have a tighter range day, less volume, right? Less action. And you want to come in with the expectation that it is going to be a slower day. A lot of developing traders coming off of the weekend are all excited to trade, right? 2 days off, you're ready to get back at it, ready to work on your skill set, and you just end up getting walloped because you're over eager during conditions that don't really call for it. On tighter range days, these kind of rotational days, as I like to call them, they can be quite lucrative, but you want to know what type of strategy, what type of approach you're going to be focusing on a day like today. Look at this action here. It's quite tight. It is quite tight, right? We're talking about an intraday range that at its very maximum was 22 points. So that's solid, but we have to assume you're not going to nail the exact low. You're not going to nail the exact high. And so it doesn't give you a lot of room for error when you're operating between a tighter range like that. The other thing to keep in mind is with these, like I said, with these tighter rotational days, strategies like the pullback to VWAP strategy that is designed to get you involved with a trend is not going to work as well, right? So you come into a session like this, you want to be looking for those level of interest type of trades. That would be long off of the 5250 level of interest, right? Which we could see a couple scenarios where that panned out nicely. My favorite being the Wyckoff spring down here. This is a phenomenal long setup. Gets you in near the low, and you could ride it into that 5265. You could see the weakness versus that 5265 upside level of interest. But overall, what is this? Just sideways chop, right? It is tradable. It is definitely tradable, but you have to know how to approach it. And I emphasize that simply because this type of day is not uncommon whatsoever, right? The big expansion days like we had on Thursday, this is uncommon. This is super uncommon. You try and hit a home run on a day like Thursday, you're just going to end up getting walloped. Much easier, in my opinion, to nail days like today, again, if you have the right expectations coming into the session. The way to do that is to really understand not only day of the week, right, but also what the current setup is showing. So Friday, we had that wide structure following what was a range expansion day on Thursday. So Thursday, you get the sell-off. Friday, we have some retracement. And Friday was quite volatile despite it being an inside day. But you have this structure that builds out on Friday. So come into a session like this, what is the likelihood with nothing on the economic calendar that price actually trades outside of this range, right? It's pretty low. It's possible. Anything is possible in the markets, but it's quite low. It's quite low. So we want to be expecting, just some oscillation. Exactly like we saw. I was actually expecting a test a little bit lower here into that 52.35. Didn't quite get there, but expecting that range day can keep you out of a lot of trouble. So just something to keep in mind for the future, because this is not a one-time scenario. We're going to be seeing this again, maybe even later this week, right? Happens all the time. So keep that in mind. Understand what conditions your strategy favors, and then understand what conditions we're looking at, or at least a potential scenario, handful of potential scenarios coming into the session about how the session can unfold is part of what I personally do. We try and talk about it during the pre-market prep as well. How could this session potentially unfold? Outline a few scenarios, and then once you have market data to actually back that up, you kind of get a sense of what you're going to be doing for that sesh, right? And again, it's all about just keeping yourself out of trouble. So if you have like some type of, let's say you only trade the pullback to VWAP strategy, you stay cash on a day like today, you did your job. You definitely did your job. So some things to keep in mind. As far as what we're going to be looking at tomorrow on ES, well, it is an inside day, right? We have price now, at least in the very near term, in a very tight structure here. And so we just want to be watching how price trades versus this near term structure, with 52.50 being the main level of interest at play. Now, buyers, of course, want to see this thing continue to hold 52.50 and trade up through today's high, up through that 52.75 area, and potentially get back into this 52.85, this zone up through here, 5300. So that'll be one scenario to be keeping in mind. If 52.50 does fail to hold, again, that is the main reference point for tomorrow's session and for this week. We are looking at that 52.35, potentially down into 52.10. So price right now is mid-range. You zoom out, we're going to see that price is just trading in the middle of a much larger range. So we don't want to have a heavy bias given the current location. Alrighty, so we'll see which direction this inside day breaks in. Anytime you have that inside day, you generally want to be trading with the direction of the break. So if it breaks the high with acceptance, of course, you want to be focusing on longs up into those upper resistance points, and then vice versa. If it breaks the low with acceptance, meaning price sustains below today's low, you want to be focusing on shorts into those lower areas of support, where you could reevaluate for some type of bounce play if that's your main play. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the main approach for ES tomorrow, looking for that inside day break with a particular emphasis on the 52.50. Overall, much slower session today, but again, well within what we were expecting. So let's jump over to NQ. Very similar price, just mid-range, right? You have that inside day, pretty much almost the exact same pattern as what we see in ES. Look at the action on, this is the 5-minute regular trading hours chart. So you've got the sell-off on Thursday, Friday, the retracement play. Okay, what's the most likely trade of the day today? Well, we have that prior day structure, right? Check Friday structure. Holds as support after a sell. So you get the sell into that structure. All right, it's a long. Trade it up into this area, right? And it's back down, and then just nothing here through the afternoon. So similar approach, exact same approach. We want to see how price is going to be trading versus today's range. That's today's high and today's low. And then just trading with the direction of the break. Keeps it incredibly simple. As far as location, again, it's in the middle of the range, right? So we zoom out, maybe even on the 4-hour. I rarely use the 4-hour, but it gives a good visual right now, just so you can see the primary structure. Here's your range high. Here is your range low, right? What do we have? Sideways. No trend here. No trend. And then within that range, where is price currently? Well, right in the middle. Best opportunities are at the edges, right? So staying nimble in the middle of the range, really focusing on location, trading with good levels of interest. Not being too aggressive. That's the name of the game right now. So we'll see how, look at the candles here for today. Does that look like very decisive action? Does this look like one side is more in control than the other? Definitely not. Definitely not, right? Just indecision bars, indecision all day long. But again, that's typical of a tighter range type of session. These tighter rotational days, like I said, can be lucrative if you are approaching them with the right mindset and the right strategies. So it's about it. NQ, looking for that break of today's inside bar on the daily time frame chart, right? As far as individual names, scans were dry. So it'll be an index-focused day again tomorrow, depending on what type of headlines we have in the morning. Other than that, that's it. Hope everyone had a good sesh, or at the very least stayed out of trouble. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning for the pre-market prep live stream. Have a great afternoon. Later.